Good morning, Madam Clerk.
Let's try again.
Are we ready?
We
Okay.
are ready, Madam
Thank you,
Chair.
thank you. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the June 7th meeting of the Community Homeless Advisory Board. Just as a friendly reminder, we'll ask everybody that if you have not been vaccinated, that you please wear a mask. But if you have been vaccinated, you are free to not wear a mask. So thank you, everybody, for that. And at this time, we're going to call the meeting to order. And we are going to start with the pledge. If we could have Marie Baxter lead us in the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. At this time, we will call the roll. Present.
Thank you. Delgado. Lawson is absent on his behalf. Councilmember Bybee.
Here.
Thank you as the alternate. Dare.
Here.
Hill.
Here.
Lucy is absent at this time. Madam Chair, you do have a quorum of the Community Homelessness Advisory Board agenda for Monday, June 7th.
Thank you very much. At this time, we will move into item 3, public comment. Madam Clerk, do you have any announcements before public comment?
Madam Chair, I do. Please note, in accordance with decorum rules as stated on the agenda and the rules for the Reno City Council chambers, public comment is limited to 3 minutes for those that are in person or on voicemail. Public comment that is received during the general area is for those that are not specific to an item today. Public comment that was received after 4 p.m. on Friday, the business day preceding this meeting, will be submitted into the record as general closing public comment and have been submitted. Additionally, as a reminder of decorum, the body asks that you do not reference one member individually and that all comments are directed at the body as a whole. There is no clapping, stamping, applauding, or excessive noise or disruption while in this room. Please be respectful of your neighbors and the body in front of you. With that, Madam Chair, we can move into your live public comment at this time. As noted, general public comment for item A3, Ilya Botman is our first speaker, followed by Emily Monton, followed by Jamal Turkenstan.
Is this thing on?
Yes.
Okay, morning. My name's Ilya Brotman, Ward 3 resident. I am giving public comment today to ask that you do whatever you can to stop the sweeps immediately. It is disingenuous to be referring to the new shelter as the CARES campus out of one side of your mouth while people are literally treated like garbage and swept off the street with bulldozers at the same time. The CARES campus is not actually a campus yet. It's a tent with a dilapidated storage container. It is almost at capacity. I understand that you're trying to do the right thing, and I think people are with you, but you're not doing it correctly. Enforcement is totally botched at this point. Camps are scattered. People are in much greater danger than they were even at the Huge Wells camp because people are isolated. Nobody knows where they are. You ask people, where did so-and-so go? They say, I don't know. Their caseworker doesn't know where they are. People's housing applications that might be in process get thrown out because they can't be tracked down. The bottom line is the sweeps are not necessary to what is going on right now. We believe in the mission of the CARES campus. We believe in finding people housing and in housing first, but that doesn't mean that in the meantime you have to treat people like garbage. So we are asking to halt the sweeps. We know that the Governor's Bowl Safe Camp will be open at some point, and I think that there's a lot of people that are going to use that opportunity. Until that is open, at least it makes sense to slow down. I will personally say that a lot of people that I've spoken to, and I do outreach regularly, have been saying and asking me, and this is a question for maybe the city attorney, is it illegal to be homeless in Reno? Because a lot of people who are living on the street feel that way currently. To speak to the CARES campus a little bit more as well, I personally received a call from someone who's working at the campus. I've been doing laundry outreach by myself with the 2 other people using personal funds, helping people get their laundry done for a few months. They were asking me if I could come to the CARES campus that now houses about 531 people to help out with laundry. To me, that indicates that it's not ready to house people. And they were talking about getting people's laundry done that need to go to work and need to have clean clothes. We need to slow down here. This is not working. Our place is currently getting the overflow from CARES, which is not right either, because people are trying to get into our place and they can't because they're having to hold beds. The bottom line is we have to stop the sweeps. One final thing, as you all know, there's currently a protest going on about 100 feet away. And the people there, who most of them have been working directly with people experiencing homelessness, all they really want is an audience. They want to talk to the CHAB, to the mayor, to city council to work this out and find out how we can work together to actually improve people's situation. So I would also ask that after this meeting, anybody who's in here, go out there and talk to them. That includes the police, the city manager who's looking at his phone, and anyone else who could come out there and actually address people directly, because we just want to talk to you. We're not interested in burning City Hall down. We really just want to help people, and stopping the sweeps is a great first step. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our next comment is from Emily Monten, followed by Jamal Tarkington, followed by Pam Gormley.
Good morning. My name is Emily Montan. I'm Ward 2 resident. I'm retired. I'm a member of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Northern Nevada. And part of our belief system is that we treat people like human beings. These sweeps are not treating people like human beings. We treat our pets better than we're treating our homeless community. They need safe, secure, affordable place to live, a place to leave their stuff so they can go out and look for jobs, get the services they need, anything like that. I'm also want to add that I volunteered at the winter shelter previous to COVID for 3 years. And I thought it was unfair that we had to wake them up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get their stuff out, and to get them out. I wouldn't do that to any one of you, ladies and gentlemen. I wouldn't say get out of bed and get out of your house at 5 a.m. And I think that shows how much our city does not care about people. And I think we need to show that we do care. I think we need to show that we think that people who are homeless are human beings, not subhumans, because that's what these sweeps are doing, treating them as if they're subhumans. I also help feed them. Our church once a week gets together, packages over 100 dinners, and provides food to them. We can't do that now because they've been swept away. So how are they going to get food? Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we start at the bottom, housing and food. The city is not providing either one. I've gone out and testified to the Washoe City Council Commission about providing affordable, safe, secure housing. And you all work together, I know that for a fact. And you need to do that before we start moving people around. Not in my backyard. No, I want them in my backyard until we give them safe place to live, to find jobs, to find affordable housing, which does not exist here in Reno. And a shelter is just a temporary solution, not permanent. So sweeping them, saying we have a shelter for you is insufficient. As I said, we treat our pets better than we're treating these people. And I mean homeless people or housing insecure people. And we need to act as if we're doing this in an orderly, thoughtful manner. Right now, there's no thought, there's no order, it's inhumane, and I think we should all be ashamed of what we're doing to our homeless residents in Reno. Thank you.
Our next comment is from Jamal Tarkington, followed by Pam Gormley, followed by Tara Tran.
Hello, my name is Jamal Tarkington. I live right here on the river and I live downtown, and I have a bunch of friends who are involved in several different ways with like helping houseless people and people who pretty much live on the river. I've lived here for about a decade now, right on the Truckee River, and I've come to try to like personalize some of these relationships that I have with some of the people that I see when I walk the river. I had a pretty bad accident about 5 years ago, so I pretty much have to get up and do some exercise every morning. So like before the sun comes up, I walk the river. I've met a lot of these people, tried to do what I can as far as like giving clothes or food or whatever help I can at times. And it's like, I guess one thing that I would like to bring up is that 50% of the people that I've met in these situations are service members. Now, we don't really want to talk about what I have as an opinion of militarism or any of that, but I do realize that these people gave a pretty big commitment and sacrifice. And it seems like they feel like when I talk to them, it feels like they don't have a space to navigate to like get to the next space. I've tried to do some of the things that I can when I can to try to help and like be aware with some of these situations. And I guess all that I would ask is that you would consider stopping the sweeps, because it seems really antithesis to like some of the work. I have some friends who are over here doing the protest, and they're like hardworking people, like farming, like hardworking people. And I think that if people can find a way to work together instead of like against each other, then things can be better. And that's all I'm here to try to possibly see if people can maybe not send the cops over there and maybe send someone to advocate for some sort of communication to be like, what do you want? Like, what can we do? Or, you know what I mean? To make something better for the situation in our city is basically what I would say. So I would say possibly like stop the sweeps, and then maybe trying to have some sort of an advocate to come over here and talk to these people to see what we can do to like make the situation better for the city and the people in these predicaments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next public comment is from Pam Gormley, followed by Tara Tran, followed by Michael Carson.
Hello. I probably will not be able to get through this without being emotional, but I, like Emily, am a Unitarian Universalist. I started being involved with homelessness in Washington, D.C. in '92 through Martha's Table. Google them. And I have worked at the tent, and every single person that is homeless is a human being and has the right to feel that they are important, that they are special, that they are cared for. And the thought, all of you just think, somebody comes to the door of your home, your apartment, and they say, you have 25 minutes to get out of here. We're getting rid of your stuff. It's ours now. We're taking it back. That's what's happening to these people. They are moms, they are dads, they are children. They are, some of them, very ill. There's no health care. There's no housing. Now the moratorium's out on people that haven't been able to pay their rent. There are going to be more people in this situation now, not less. I taught school for 32 years, part of it at Pine Middle School when I moved here. There's homeless people in schools. Can they get a good education? I mean, you have to look at what you're doing. And I personally have helped at the tent for 3 years, and I did a lot of other things too, and social justice is imperative. We should all have social justice, not just because you were lucky enough to get raised and have a job and have money. You have no idea what anybody's going to have happen to them in their lives. Anyone could find a crisis in their lives and lose what they used to have. And I just think that it's imperative to stop the sweeps, rethink the big tent under the spaghetti bowl. Would you want to live there? And visit, please, see what's going on. I'm not criticizing the council, but in 3 years, not one person from the council ever went to the overflow tent when I was there. I would take candy for treats, and one time at the treat for Valentine's Day, I got a bunch of it wasn't Stouffer's, it was some other kind of candy. And I went around with the candy and gave everybody 2 pieces, and I had more. People were crying because I gave them a piece of good candy on Valentine's Day. Is your life like that? No. So please consider the humanity of the homeless. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our next comment is from Tara Tran, followed by Michael Carson.
My name is Tara Tran. I'm a resident of Ward 3. With the rising cost of housing in Reno, it's hard for people in middle-class situations to even find a place to stay. More homelessness will affect more and more of your residents, and that doesn't make them any less part of the community. It doesn't make them any less citizens of Reno. It just makes our situation different. It could happen to anybody. We're all a lot less steps away from houselessness than we are from being millionaires, at least the people I know. And in that situation, stability is a privilege. It is something that you really have to fight for. And you can't move to the next place without any amount of stability, without any amount of safety. The homeless encampments that have been being swept, when people lose everything, at least they have that. Underneath wells, people had a community. They were able to feel safe for just a second. A lot of the people in these encampments are experiencing addiction, experiencing mental illness, PTSD. Sending police there, especially when a lot of these people have had very negative, violent interactions with the police, doesn't make them feel safe. A lot of times it can trigger PTSD and things like that in the homeless community. And these sweeps do nothing except for remove that stability and safety. They're not gonna make people not be homeless. You can't just shove people east and east until they disappear. They're not gonna disappear. And they're human beings. They are like you or like me in a different situation. And that doesn't remove their humanity. And these sweeps literally do nothing except for remove any amount of stability that could allow them to move out of that situation. It's really hard to accumulate any amount of stuff, any amount of resources, clothes to go to a job interview. And these sweeps literally throw away all of the stuff, any amount of wealth, any amount of resources that they have accumulated. The CARES campus, they can't keep their items. They can't keep the stuff. There's no space for single women, but single women still get swept off the street all the same. They're people. They're not different than you or me. And to deny their humanity and to deny that instability is inhumane. You guys are in your position because you guys convince some people that you guys care. Then why are people out 100 feet away fighting way harder for the citizens of this community than you guys are? You guys should be fighting at least as hard as the average person. Do better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, our last general public comment this morning is from Michael Carson.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Carson, resident of Ward 3. And I just want to echo everything that my friends and fellow community members have said, to take a step back, to slow down, to stop the sweeps, to really examine what's happening and see how it's perpetuating harm to some of our most vulnerable community members. My friends and I have been across the street protesting, mostly just asking for a conversation, to sit and have a meeting to discuss and examine what's happening at the CARES campus, examining what's really happening when the sweeps occur. And as I looked closely at what's been going on and how the sweeps are executed, it looks so much like the way we've been trying to solve problems since the first settlers landed here and started displacing people to develop the land and moving them further and further away. I'm not saying this experience is the same. I'm saying the tactics are the same, and they're archaic and extremely outdated, and markers of unsustainable solutions. And that's really, really concerning to me when I look at the lenses to which people are viewing problems and then the solutions for this city and for this country. What I've been doing outreach for over a year now, and have been called out for being an enabler, me and my friends, and what we've been doing is building relationships. We've been building rapport. We've been building respect. We've been creating a sense of safety, and that is like long game work. That there's no like shortcut to creating that trust with people who are marginalized and have a history of trauma. It's really, really long medicine, and we've been doing our best to create those relationships and really ask them for help with us figuring out what the solutions can be. And displacing everybody, taking all their things, violently sweeping them, and creating more trauma, and then putting them all into a shelter where there is no access to the basic resources they need, and there's no housing to help keep them moving through so they don't get stuck there. That's just not a sustainable solution. And I've heard mentions of this needing to happen, these sweeps needing to happen to protect the river. And it really seems like that is, if that was really the case, then instead of pledging allegiance to a flag which represents ownership of the land, you'd be talking about the people and you'd be talking about the land before anything else. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, with that, we have no further general public comment.
Thank you very much. At this time, we'll move on to item 4, which is the approval of the agenda. Does anybody have any questions or modifications?
Move to approve.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 5, the approval of the minutes. Any modifications? Hearing and seeing none, may I get a motion?
I move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Madam Chair, I do need to abstain from the approval of the minutes as I was not in attendance at the last meeting. So if you could mark me as an abstention, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. All right, item 6, presentation on vehicle homelessness and safe parking programs. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning. Can you put up the PowerPoint? Is there a place to move it, or we just tell you to move it, the slides?
I have a clicker if you want to.
We'll get it going here. It's a
you.
Monday.
It is a Monday. Let's see
A little
what we can
slow
do here.
getting out of the gate this morning. There we go. Right.
Nope, I have it here. I'm just trying to get it pulled up. If you'll just let us know when to advance, we'll move it forward because we can't.
Like everybody to see pictures, so it's always funner. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you for the opportunity to present about safe and legal parking for vehicles used as homes today. I am Iris Jaley Papard, the Executive Director of One Truckee River. I will refer to as OTR. And with me today is Eileen Bidwell, our Human Services Educator that conducted the research on the topic. Next slide, please. Before I pass it to Ms. Bidwell, I want to mention that OTR is a collaboration of public and private partners. The information presented today is research collected by Mrs. Bidwell. It is not of the OTR partnership as a whole. Since OTR is a collaborative partnership of diverse perspectives, it is information compiled to support our mission in mind to ensure a healthy, thriving, sustainable river connected to the hearts and minds of its community. Next slide, please. So, why are we involved? Why are we here today? Our partnership identified 9 focus areas and combined them to create 4 primary goals on the slide. Looking at goal 2, to create and sustain a safe, beautiful, and accessible river connected to people and places, we need to continue to find solutions to address homelessness for the river and community's health. As we all know, the issue of homelessness in this region affects the Truckee River directly. Next slide, please. At the end of 2017, our Partnership Council prioritized 9 action items out of 103 in the OTR management plan. One prioritized related to the topic today is action item 2.6.A that's on the screen, expand the continuum of housing options. Next slide, please. As this region has made great strides on homelessness recently with the new Nevada Cares campus and Washoe County's Our Place, we felt it is still important to focus on the topic of safe and legal parking to support action item 2.6.A and water quality protection. As many vehicles parked illegally along the river are individuals living in their vehicles and RVs that present threats to the natural river environment in general, including excess motor oil, antifreeze, and exhaust from vehicles parked illegally along the river. Okay, now I'm going to pass it to Eileen.
Hi, good morning. Eileen Bidwell with One Truckee River and a resident of Ward 1. Today's presentation was originally scheduled to be given by Dr. Graham Pruss, postdoctoral scholar at the Benioff Homelessness and Housing Initiative at the University of California, San Francisco, who spent more than 10 years researching vehicle residency throughout the western United States. Dr. Pruss is an anthropologist, and his research included field studies and many interviews. But since we are meeting in person today instead of out there in Zoom land somewhere, I will present to you today a combination of Dr. Pruss's research and my own literature review and interviews related to the successful safe parking programs in California and Oregon. Next slide, please. 2 slides? Oh, 2 slides, I'm sorry. Okay, that one. Great, thank you. I will speak to you about the issues and challenges of vehicle homelessness, present a solution that has been successful in other communities, and talk about the benefits of establishing a safe parking program in our community. Next slide, please. Thank you. Homelessness affects not only the families and individuals who experience it, it has a profound impact on the entire community. In order to end homelessness, a community-wide response is essential. This map shows the number of affordable and available rental homes per 100 extremely low-income households by state. As you can see, well, you can't see it. You can see it? Yes. Nevada has between 31 and 40 rental units for every 100 households earning less than 30% of median income. A few weeks ago, I heard Senator Cortez Masto say that Nevada currently has the greatest shortage of affordable housing in the nation. We all know there are many factors that contribute to homelessness, but according to the Nevada Homelessness Alliance, the leading cited barriers to obtaining housing are the lack of income and the inability to afford rent. The scarcity of affordable housing in the western U.S. has resulted in a dramatic increase in the number of people experiencing homelessness in the past few years. For many people who have lost their homes due to rising rents, the loss of a job, the death of a family member, surviving domestic violence, a medical emergency, or other financial crisis, living in a vehicle presents the first practical option. Thousands of families and individuals, including many seniors, currently sleep in their RVs, trucks, vans, and passenger cars throughout the western states. There are an estimated over 16,500 vehicle residents in Los Angeles alone. Most are experiencing homelessness for the first time. Many have jobs nearby, children who attend local schools, social support networks, and long-standing ties to their communities. They are often referred to as the invisible homeless and the working homeless. For many households, a vehicle is the last safe place, the only remaining property with monetary value, and the only thing that keeps them from living unsheltered. Vehicles offer at least some protection from the elements and transportation to and from work, school, medical appointments, etc. As one safe parking program manager stated, living in a vehicle is a necessary survival strategy. Living in a vehicle also presents a threat to health and safety. Too often, vehicle occupants become victims of property theft and violent crimes, and damage to their vehicles is common. A lack of reliable access to bathrooms, trash disposal, hygiene, and laundry facilities poses a risk to individuals and the public, a risk that has increased during the COVID-19 pandemic. When vehicles that serve as temporary homes are immobilized due to mechanical problems or towed away with all the household's belongings, inhabitants are likely to end up living unsheltered or relying on a community's already overburdened shelter system. Dr. Pruss mentions a man named Billy, age 63, who spent every night sleeping on the sidewalk next to the spot where the RV he lived in was towed away. Next slide, please. Here you see a picture of Richard, who has lived in his truck for 2 years following a divorce. He's 54 years old, has two daughters attending college, and is employed as a maintenance worker earning $10 an hour. According to the Nevada Housing Coalition, an individual or household has to earn at least $28 an hour to afford the average one-bedroom apartment in Washoe County. A woman named Mary, who lives in the Bay Area and is raising her 2 grandchildren, purchased an RV for the family to live in after her rent increased from $1,400 to $3,200 a month. It's in some town in the Bay Area. I have many more stories I could share with you if time allowed. The stories show that most vehicle dwellers are homeless because they can no longer afford a stable place to live. Next slide, please. Thank you. In response to the growing number of vehicle residents, many cities have established safe and legal parking programs that also increase access to housing search assistance and related health and human services. I wrote a report on 9 such programs in the cities of Santa Barbara, Mountain View, Union City, Palo Alto, East Palo Alto, and San Jose in California, and Eugene and Beaverton in Oregon. These 9 programs share common elements that lead to their success. These are community inclusion in the planning process. Programs are funded by local governments and managed by nonprofit organizations, and the nonprofits are the single point of entry for participants. Parking is provided free. The programs allow all types of vehicles. They're low barrier, open to anyone living in a vehicle. Nonprofit organizations or governments provide liability insurance for privately owned lots. They provide 24-hour security, and they include bathrooms, showers, storage, and laundry facilities. Some serve meals and offer medical services, including COVID-19 testing and vaccines. Pets are allowed, and there is access to case management, referrals to services that meet their needs, assistance finding permanent homes, and other types of support. And most importantly, stable housing is the primary goal. So this is not a permanent solution, it's a temporary solution. Examples of people who would benefit from safe parking programs include older adults living on a fixed income who cannot afford their rent, college students, thank you, college students trying to make ends meet while prioritizing their education, families, including those headed by grandparents who have fallen on hard times due to an unanticipated medical bill or loss of a job, recently transitioned veterans struggling to navigate their next steps and find a new job. Next slide, please. The benefits to the community include decreased police and emergency service calls in many communities, keeping vehicles off public streets and spaces, preventing more individuals and families from entering an overburdened shelter system, decreased environmental impacts, increased probability of stable housing for program participants, and creating a healthier community. Dr. Pruss notes that the safe parking model empowers RVs to become new shelter supply, so they become part of the solution rather than part of the problem. There are two safe parking models used extensively in the U.S., the safe parking model and the supportive parking model. The safe parking model offers short-term parking space that connects occupants with human services to meet their needs, and the supportive parking model provides parking space for an indefinite amount of time to connect vehicle occupants with the systems of housing and care. This is basically a mobile home park for extremely low-income occupants. And I'd like to add that many traditional RV lots and mobile home lots do not allow older vehicles to park there. Graham's research suggests a combination of the safe parking and supported parking models would be most successful. This will create a diverse community of vehicle residents who all occupy the same public space. This diverse model creates a space for all vehicle residents to exit public space and connect with a variety of services. Last slide, please. And that's a direct quote from Graham. People who dwell in RVs or cars may have homes, quote, but their lives are often unnecessarily precarious. I was inspired by a recent article describing research by an emergency room doctor in California to show that housing as healthcare and permanent homes greatly decrease the number of emergency room visits by unsheltered people, which saved the community a lot of money. The doctor noted that many researchers use reductions in service usage and cost as justification to provide people with housing. She said, "To me, housing is just the right thing to do for people. Safe and legal parking is the right thing to do, and this is the right time to make it happen." Thank you so much for listening this morning. Do we have time for questions?
Thank you very much. I would turn to my colleagues to see if they have any questions or comments at this time. Commissioner Hill.
I was just wondering if we had a audit of how many vehicles people are living in Washoe County.
We don't have a really accurate number. It's extremely hard to determine who's living in their vehicles and who isn't. I mean, I have several friends who retired and they bought mobile homes and they're, out on the road. There are also, I've spoken with construction workers who are here for jobs. They can't afford a place to live, so they're living in their vehicles. There's the snowbirds. It's really difficult to determine, how many. The one estimate that I got from one of the outreach workers was approximately 135 vehicles and approximately 300 people living homeless in their vehicles. But it's really hard to tell. Now, Dr. Pruss did 10 years of research, and he had research assistants go out, and they had ways to, like, if there's condensation on the windshield in the morning, they had really good ways of figuring that out, but I don't think we've done that here.
And I'll just note that I found that interesting as Eileen jumped into her research that we don't track that here.
Actually, I
that I
think
know of.
we do, and I was looking to see, I know we got a report at the city of Reno with regards to the number of individuals in their vehicles, and I'm looking around the room. I don't have it at my disposal, but it was a fairly significant number.
There's homeless people living in vehicles are not counted in the point-in-time count. HUD does not consider vehicle residents as homeless.
Thank you very much. Member Bybee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was looking at the Seattle model and saw that their safe parking was through churches, and that the churches had, they had another model that had one large lot, and they wound up having issues. It wasn't successful. So then they moved to another model and worked with a variety of churches and had a smaller number at each church and congregation that has been pretty successful in providing safe place, but also access to services, even just a bathroom, food, whatever, through the churches. And I guess I'm curious if, so with this safe parking, is it something, this is informational right now, but something you all are hoping to look at in our region and how we could facilitate that? So is that one of the things you're looking at, is possibly working through the churches to find locations to maybe see this become a reality?
There are different models in the 9 cities. Some of them.
Look, there you go. That way we can get you on the recording.
Some utilize church parking lots and private business parking lots that are used, during the day by customers, but not used at night. But the nonprofits, in every case, a nonprofit is managing and operating the lot. Different models. So it's not always government-owned property. A lot of it's private. Owned. Some have large lots, some have smaller lots all over. Many of the cities invite churches and businesses to participate.
And I just
Thank
want to
you.
say, we're trying to find our niche here in everything. And as I stated, right, we all know One Truckee River is a collaboration of diverse perspectives. And so we are here at your disposal. And it seems like a good niche for us is researching. And so Eileen put a fair amount of work into here, but we at a certain point we stop and, want to present it and see the temperature gauge. But, Eileen is here willing and available to research more. We could go into, what made that one not successful, more in the budgets, those kind of things. But we don't want to, we want to direct our time to be most effective for everybody, so.
Madam Chair?
Yes. Member Dare.
Yeah, thank you for doing this, and thank you for information. It's good. My encouragement for something like this, I really strongly believe our community is going to be the best answer as we solve a lot of these problems. And so I appreciate the community showing up. I appreciate people being involved. For me, what we try to do, at least this is my approach, is create an atmosphere in our city, in our region, that allows our community to really help and come alongside us. Because I think sometimes there's a lot of great ideas, but as you can see, financially and everything we're trying to do, there's some large projects we're working on, and this would just seem like another one, just so you know, my brain goes to. But it doesn't mean it's not important. It just means that we have a couple very large projects we're working on that has to get full attention. But something like this, I would just encourage, if anybody's out there, I don't know the steps it would take to even do. The need is without question, could help. But this is where I think the community can hear this stuff as well. So I just want to say that if people think the government's going to come up with all the answers and put a bow on this, I think they're sorely mistaken. I think we can do the best we can, but we, even financially and everything, have so many boundaries of what we can do. But thank you very much.
Yeah, and I just want to respond to that. I totally see that, and I agree. And, getting the temperature right now, we can facilitate those conversations too. We're not going to be the ones to run it, obviously, but we are totally available and open to have conversations with anybody and everyone that's interested in supporting this.
In every one of the 9 cities, government was involved somehow, but many times the space was donated, the parking lots were donated by private businesses and churches. The Seattle program, the large lot, my understanding, because I moved here from Seattle, my understanding is that, I know this, that they're developing every square foot in Seattle, and so they needed that land to develop. That's my understanding. So yes, the church model is working there.
Thank you very much, and kudos for you guys pulling together all this information and really kind of taking the reins on finding history on this, finding out where it was successful, maybe where the pitfalls were, the things that can be improved upon. I will tell you what intrigued me the most was where the private sector is really going to be beneficial in this regard is when you talked about the liability insurance. I can tell you that's a huge barrier when it comes to governments for being the operator or significantly involved in these sorts of facilities. That doesn't diminish the need for it and our wanting to pursue it. I think there's great value in doing that. I think it's another piece of, spoke in the wheel that we want to explore more. So thank you very much for doing this. I would certainly encourage you to continue on this path. I think there is an answer out there. I do think that the faith-based community could very well be a big part of that answer. The question I had, and I don't know if you have the answer to this, so the vehicle, what if it's not operable? In other words, so we have a number of vehicles around the community that people are living in that don't even run. Are people allowed to tow it to this location, or do they all have to be operating vehicles?
Well, some of the parking lots, some of the programs actually have maintenance people who help with that. If the vehicle breaks down in the lot, those are the parking lot. The maintenance people get it running again, or the mechanics. But it's costing the city, it's costing government a lot of money to tow these vehicles, and all of the people who I've spoken with who live in vehicles, they could not afford to get their vehicles out of storage. So it's costing a lot. So I would think that the money that could be saved on, towing the vehicles could be spent to maybe help pay liability insurance. I spoke with the woman who started I interviewed the woman who started the first safe parking program in Santa Barbara, and their nonprofit pays the liability insurance. And I believe that that's how it works in most of the cities where nonprofits manage the parking lots.
Okay, great, thank you. Well, I don't know if we need to take action. I don't think we need to take a vote on that. I think we can all agree that we want to look at this further, find, potentially private locations and nonprofit operators to pursue this. I do know it's a significant issue in all of our jurisdictions, and you are correct that it is a significant expense to get vehicles towed. It's very lengthy, the process to move them at all, and we find often that where are you moving them to? Because a lot of the places that would take them are like, no, we don't have any space for that. So I think this is worthy of pursuing as another potential opportunity. So,
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
Madam Chair, your next item today is the point and time count from J.D. Kleppenstein.
Good morning, Chair Jarden, members of the board. I'm J.D. Klippenstein. I am the State Director of Faith in Action, and I'm here in my capacity as Chair of the Northern Nevada COC Leadership Council. And I'm going to be sharing the point in time count information for 2021. So going to share some high level, what the count actually found, as well as some information from some surveys that were conducted as part of the emergency shelter count. So just a little refresher, point in time count. This one was conducted on February 4th, and the point in time count is a long-standing and annual count. It's a single night count, it's a snapshot, but it's a requirement of all COCs per HUD guidelines. And ours was conducted on the 4th, and the information was submitted to HUD on May 14th. And the count included 3 specific aspects, which is the unsheltered count, the emergency shelter count, and the transitional housing count. So if you go to the next slide, the first thing that we'll look at is the unsheltered count. So this is the only time during the year where the unsheltered population is comprehensively counted face-to-face by volunteers and law enforcement. And they use this with a Counting Us app as an app they use to do that. This year, obviously, because of COVID, was a little bit different in terms of the methodology. So it was a head count only, but that head count counted 780 total people at that one time, that overnight count, as unsheltered. There were 33 volunteers, 22 law enforcement officers, and there were 34 different areas that were included in this count. Actually, the next slide shows this information in a really effective and helpful visual way. So, I mean, the graph kind of speaks for itself here. It's a significant increase from 2020 to 2021. I will note, though, that we've seen it's been on the upward swing for quite some time, but a huge jump there. I think I'm not very good at statistics, but I think it's like 50% increase, if not more. And this, again, shout out to Hetty and some City of Reno staff that helped break down this information in some really helpful ways. This is a breakdown of the emergency shelter count, which was 697 folks at that time in emergency shelter. This is a breakdown of the providers of that shelter and how many were in each of those different shelters. And I think if you keep going through, this is a graph showing that as well year over year. So again, 2021 showed the highest amount of folks counted in shelters since 2015. And then finally, we'll have the transitional housing. This was a total of 231. And again, here's a pie chart that shows the breakdown by provider. And we'll see a trend here as well from 2015 to 2021. You might have some questions around the changes over the years. There is, in terms of all of this is self-reported by those providing these services. So depending on how complete the response is in terms of those providing transitional housing determines the number we get there. So this isn't necessarily a snapshot of all things that we might consider transitional housing. Some providers might not have responded, which we would see maybe a decrease in certain numbers here. But 231 beds considered transitional housing. And again, if you, this I believe is on the city's website. I might be speaking out of turn here, but I believe this information is publicly available. And those three charts combined there to show the unsheltered count, the emergency shelter count, and the transitional housing count. So obviously, the unsheltered count is really deeply concerning. This is also conducted at some of the coldest time of the year. So for folks to be unsheltered at that time means that they had very few options to go if they were unsheltered in the middle of February. So I think at this point we're going to switch over to a survey. So this is a really interesting aspect of the point in time count. This was a survey that was conducted specifically with folks in the emergency shelter. So this is not a survey that was conducted as part of the unsheltered count. As I noted, that was a head count only because of COVID and HUD guidelines on how to interact during the point in time count for unsheltered folks. This is a survey that was given to people at the emergency shelter, and it was a series of questions that were asked. I will note, for those of you who are trying to add up the percentages, you don't have to worry about it. The folks were able to choose more than one option, so that's not going to add up to 100. Don't worry. But there were a series of questions that were asked, and I'll go over some of the what we thought was some really important and interesting information to share in terms of their responses and the amount of folks who responded to that. So as you can see there, one of the first questions that was asked was, what caused your homelessness? 65% said lack of income. And as you can go through, disability, loss of employment, and a series of other things, including evictions, mental health issues. They were all listed as different causes. I might be editorializing a bit here, so this might be just J.D. Klippenstein, but I think homelessness isn't primarily an economic issue. As we can see here, there's a severe lack of resources and income contributing to those who are experiencing it. So if we can go to the next slide. So some of the other questions that were asked was, what has stopped you from getting housing again? No income, some credit barriers, other kind of barriers like ID. And then as you go down, just different components or aspects that are complicating folks' lives and ability to access stable housing. But again, income and economic stability is a huge indicator of if someone is able to get housing and stay housed. And I love this next question because it is often part of the narrative around homelessness is that it's people coming from outside the community. That's not true. This survey would show, over 58% have lived in Reno for over 5 years, and the rest of that is broken down into different things. But the vast majority of those in emergency shelter during this point in time count had lived in Reno for over 5 years. So there isn't a giant influx of people coming from out of the community who are experiencing homelessness. And again, this is, I think, speaks to the challenge of it. Is this the first time you've been homeless? Overwhelmingly, no. Homelessness is a recurring challenge for the folks that were included in the survey. 61% said no, this is not the first time they've been homeless. Again, what type of housing would best meet your needs? 70% said an apartment. And actually that was by far the largest kind of type of housing that was mentioned in this survey. Let's keep moving forward. Then we asked some specific questions. I shouldn't say we, I wasn't there. Some specific questions were asked about COVID-19, which I think is really important. So have you lost income due to COVID-19? The majority actually said no. 41% said yes. Have you been tested for COVID-19? 73% had been tested. And have you been told you've had COVID-19? 85% said no. I know that the city of Reno and many other regional partners, when the pandemic started, made some pretty significant moves to get people housed with social distancing and using the Reno Event Center. And I do want to make a shout out to all those folks who are engaged in this. I think this survey points to the effectiveness of that and the fact that we didn't see widespread COVID-19 resulting in folks who are experiencing or being spread in our homeless and houseless neighbors. And then the last one, are you homeless as a result of COVID-19? 74% said no. So while it doesn't seem to have been, for those in emergency shelter during this count, it wasn't a large contributing factor to why they were experiencing homelessness. There were other questions that were mentioned, and I'm sure that information can be shared with any of you if you are interested. But we wanted to come here as a continuum of care and as the Leadership Council to present, one, the point in time count, obviously a deep amount of concern for the unsheltered population, the rapid increase there, and the trend upwards over the last several years, as well as some of these, the survey questions, because I know these are questions that this board has asked before and that I know are often brought up in the public discourse around homelessness. So with that, I will turn it over to questions that I can try to answer to the best of my ability.
Thank you very much. Great presentation, great data. And I appreciate the information you've gathered from those living on the streets and bringing that to us. That sort of information is really valuable, and I know that's something we always want to have available. Any members have questions or comments? Member Delgado.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, JD, for that information. I imagine that what I really appreciated from a lot of this is just the data and opportunity to really look at the needs assessment, the questions that were asked in terms of how that information is transferring over to whether it's the VOA, just us up here, to those to know that what types of services we kind of sometimes assume just through trends and just through carrying programs forward in terms of that we know what's needed for those that are at the shelters, right? But this is kind of somewhat newer to me in terms of the questions that you're asked during the point in time count to say, are these transitioning to the proper programs that we see moving over to the New Cares campus or our place? So my hope is that, and I'm assuming that's the case, is that questions being asked that we have workforce development opportunities. Do we have people that are there to make sure that people are eligible for Medicaid or signing up for housing programs and so forth? And so, but again, just making sure this translates over to making sure that the providers that are going to be setting up shop at our CARES campus, if they're not already, that they have that accessible. As I know during the transfer, things get lost during transfer. So thanks for that data. I think that's very, very important. And we need to continue to add on more pertinent questions as part of that too.
Thank you, Councilman Delgado. And I would say that I think a key function of the point in time count, one is per HUD guidelines, it's a requirement for all COC to be, and then leads to eligibility for the HUD funding that can come through for rapid rehousing and several other housing resources that come into the community. The other is exactly what you just said, is that the COC is made up of many different stakeholders and service providers, and point in time information has been shared with all of those members in the hopes that there would be, more alignment around services and identifying opportunities for folks to be doing exactly what you just said.
Thank you very much. Member Dare.
Thank you. It's good seeing you. It's been a while, sir. We should coffee soon. A couple questions. One, I just want to, just for numbers, so putting it all together, we're right around 1,500 of people who are experiencing homelessness, as you shared. Is that, I include the shelter in that just because our goal is that is not the end game, that we're moving forward. One of the questions, I don't know if it's a part of what you have on there, is how long have people, each of these individuals, experienced their homelessness? And I think that's something that could help, because one of the things I think all of us want to see is that there is some helpful movement forward, and we're not just creating this is where they're normal for the rest of their life. And we'd like to see that change, and that would be a good potential indication of a good litmus to everybody of what's going on. And then my biggest question, though, has to do with data and how we come together. And are we working with Built for Zero, and are we dancing together? Because our ultimate goal, though this is important, I thank all the volunteers, and I got to go out once with you guys and see what that was about, and is that we have good information all the time. Once a year, if that's the only time that we sat and counted those things that are most important to us, we probably would say they're not that important to us. And so I want to say we want to know all the time. We want to know where we're at, how we're doing. And I know this is a commitment we've made as a board and even as a community to say we value and we want to know how we're doing, what's going on. So I just want to encourage, I don't know how that's going. You can speak to it or just encourage you to do so, but that dancing together with what you're doing in Built for Zero is really crucial to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that, Councilman Dare. So I don't want to speak entirely for Built for Zero, as I'm not as engaged in those efforts, but the stakeholders that make up much of Built for Zero are also stakeholders on our COC. I will point out that these are different methodologies around the counting, and in particular, the point in time count is one opportunity around the unsheltered population. I think the ongoing count, the ongoing data needs that you mentioned, the use of HMIS and other kind of data gathering systems and collect, I know for sure that's an aspect of what Built for Zero is looking at, kind of the ongoing counting and tracking. So there is some overlap. They're also distinct on the goal of what a point in time count is versus the ongoing nature of it. And I think that the stakeholders who are part of Built for Zero are also deeply engaged with the COC and the folks who do the point in time count. So there is a lot of overlap there. They're not duplicative by any means. They're intended to kind of achieve a different outcome in terms of what they're counting and why they're counting.
Thank you very much. Member Hill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, JD. Great presentation. So I was wondering, I don't see Crossroads on here for, am I just missing it on transition? I'm assuming it's transitional housing for Crossroads.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know if I have the answer to that.
Okay.
I don't know if from what I may have is what HUD defines as transitional housing. I'm not quite, so it's self-reported. So if a provider says that's not us, they might not include themselves in that count.
Okay. Well, I've heard from my staff at the county that we have a lot of transitional housing. So I'm wondering if, because we have 231 people that are from organizations that are self-reporting, and then maybe Crossroads has additional folks, but that this is an underutilized service because of some barriers that are set up. So that's just for a note that I guess we need to look into. But the other thing that I was doing a little math on is I was told by our staff that we have 1,400 people in our system that we know about in our community that are unhoused or have been unhoused, and this adds up to 1,700 people. So there's still people we don't know who they are, is my understanding. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't know if I can begin. Not sure if that's a definitive answer. I think they're referring to HMIS. So
Yes,
there should be
HMIS.
considerable, like, hopefully, in an ideal world, everyone who was counted in the point in time count would also be in HMIS. But we're not in that world. So yeah, for
Right.
sure, there are folks who are not in quote unquote the system who haven't accessed services or been in contact with a case manager or a social worker that would have led to their information being inside HMIS. So there definitely isn't, everyone's not being counted and everyone's not being included in that ongoing count, which is why the point in time count is such an important aspect of the ongoing effort to count, is like you will count folks who otherwise would be completely off the radar.
And would you normally put them in HMIS? I'm still learning. Sorry, I'm
Hetty,
just wondering.
I'm gonna turn it over to Hetty Reed for that one.
Hi there, Hetty Reed for the record. To be in HMIS, you have to do a program enrollment generally. So if that hasn't happened with the folks, maybe during street outreach, that's definitely something we're working on, but that would be one reason why they're not in there.
Okay. Well, good to know. I think that just shows that there's some gaps that we still have, and I know that we're working with what our councilman said over here about Built for Zero and making sure that we're coordinating with those efforts, because that's something that the county is aggressively working to fill those, gaps, and finding out who these folks are and how we can best serve them with the different service providers that we have in the community. But thank you very much. This is helpful for me.
It is very much, and I think something that maybe in the future counts, whether they're formal point-in-time counts with your additional questions, which I think were fantastic, but also in getting a better grasp of the couples, the different sort of makeup of those individuals without shelter, because that then informs us, pets, informs us as whether it's emergency sheltering or other opportunities, kind of where to put how much where. That would be very beneficial, and gives us just a heads up of, what we can expect a little bit better. So that would be great information.
I totally agree, Chair Jordan. I would note the point in time count is a collaborative. It's done by multiple folks, and in the past there has been the opportunity for that more collaborative, like what kind of questions should we be asking? Again, that with the emergency shelter, that was more doable because those folks were in congregate housing. But with COVID-19 and some of the limits there. So I think hopefully 2022, we're not dealing with those same things, and the point in time count can be an opportunity for what you just said.
Fantastic. Member Bybee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess, JD, thank you. I mean, all of these, the numbers really speak loudly to the issue that we're facing as a community, and we're trying to work not as individual cities or county. I mean, this community, it's private, it's public, it's all of us from CHAB to just average people in the community, like a lot of you out here that are concerned and trying to do something to make a difference. I think the numbers in the point in time are pretty shocking when you look at 2019 almost doubled to 2020 and almost doubled again in 2021. And in looking at the 2021 numbers, and I know COVID kind of threw a wrench into the works, but with this being done in February, the CARES campus was not open yet, but our place was. And our place has been able to house families and women and children, which is a really, really important first step. And so even with our place open, with the amount of families and children that we've been able to, and women at our place, to still see this number is pretty shocking. And I guess all of you who work, the services, the agencies that are doing this probably, and I'm not going to put you on the spot of, why it's gone up so much, but I know all of you working in this and all of us are interested in looking at all the reasons why that number is increasing so dramatically. And I do appreciate the survey, and maybe for next year when we don't have COVID too, the survey tells you a lot. So I think the survey, and really breaking down how long someone's been homeless. I would agree, that there is maybe more info that could go into that, but it helps explain, and also to break some of the stereotypical beliefs that people have on why someone is homeless and what those reasons behind it. So it's kind of, that data is really helpful. And I think it's helpful too to make sure we're sharing that information with the public so that the average person who maybe, whatever they feel about it, it's educating people and businesses in the community with that kind of data. So thank you for the presentation. And moving forward, I think everything together, point in time, all these agencies, us working together is making a difference. And it's not a silver bullet for any of this homelessness. There's no silver bullet. And we look nationwide in every city in the country, National League of Cities. I've been back at conferences for the last 6 years, and every city I talk to, big and small, is experiencing this challenge. But we're trying to share what the resources, what things are working, and I think that's how we find an answer to moving forward. And it doesn't happen overnight, so we've got to be patient but be persistent. And I appreciate you and the information you're providing with us today.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Councilmember Bybee. I would be remiss. We're in the midst of an affordable housing crisis, and there's going to be no serious improvement in these numbers despite great resources and services being provided for those who are experiencing homelessness. There's just naturally going to be a bottleneck. So these numbers aren't going to decrease without a serious investment in affordable housing for low-income folks. And as the previous presentation mentioned, Nevada has the largest gap in terms of any state in the country in terms of that available to extremely low-income renters. So it is a really complex problem, and there's some really long-standing big systemic issues that are leading to it, along with everyone's story and individual experience being different as well. So I appreciate that. It is by far, it's a regional issue, and it's going to take a lot of stakeholders to solve.
Madam Chair, I have one quick question.
Yes, Member Dale.
Sorry about that. This whole HUD count has to do with funding. So in the past, I've heard sometimes we might have left some money on the table because we didn't do everything. How do we do this time? Just in the sense that were we able to get the funding that we could? I know it doesn't come to government, it goes out into the community, but do you feel like we hit that mark, or how do we do?
I'm going to turn to Hetty might actually have some more specific information on that.
Because that's really what everything we do.
Part of it is that's still been in process, especially with COVID, some of the timelines on when that information, I'm not sure if we've learned it yet, so.
Hetty Reed for the record. So we don't know yet for this count what the funding will look like. We expect sometime this summer for the notice of funding availability to be released for the continuum of care. Last year for 2020, projects were automatically renewed because there was no competition due to COVID. So at this point, we have $2.1 million going through the community as part of the continuum of care. It's increased steadily over the years, so we hope to see that again this year.
Thank you very much. And this is, as we transition with the county taking over as the lead and all the different entities and Built for Zero, I feel like we're really starting to hone in on where the keeper of the information is, where all of those that are conducting surveys, and it all kind of coming together to make sure that we are directing the resources in the right direction and not duplicating and making sure we're not having gaps. But I would agree that housing and mental health services are the most significant plague that many, many cities are experiencing right now. I will say encouraging is conversations that I have had, and I know others are having, with people at both the state and the federal level, are at a much more intense level than I've ever seen. Because I think they see that this is much bigger than local jurisdictions are able to lift effectively, and we're going to need assistance from the state and federal level. And I feel like finally, those are all starting to come together and be bigger conversations. So
I would agree. I'd also, the American Rescue Plan and the funds coming to local
Yes.
and state government is I think a once in a long time opportunity to invest in some meaningful services and housing. So I'd lift that up.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very
Yeah,
much for all your
absolutely.
work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Madam Chair, with that, transitioning to your next item, item 8. This is an update on the Nevada Cares Campus from City Manager Doug Thornley.
Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, Madam
Interesting
Chair.
to see you on that side of the dais.
I know, it's been a minute. So, Madam Chair, members of the board, I'm Doug Thornley. I'm the city manager here in Reno, and I'm here to give you an update on the CARES campus. We have 4 important slides for you to pay attention to today. We're going to cover 3 topics. We're going to talk about daily operations at the CARES campus. We're going to talk about trends in usage out there, and we're going to give you the important updates for, it's a new facility, and so of course there are going to be some bumps in the road. So we're going to talk about how we're addressing some of those. So our first, I'm sorry. No. Today is the 22nd day that the campus has been in operations. As you can see, starting in the upper left-hand quadrant, we have 550 guests there at present. What that means for all of you is that there are 54 beds available right now for additional guests. We do have 100 overflow cots available, and more mattresses are arriving this week. We do want to thank Catholic Charities, the Reno Sparks Gospel Mission. There's an incredible number of meals provided out there in just 3 short weeks. That's 3 a day, one of which is warm. I believe it's lunch is the warm meal, otherwise a cold breakfast and a cold dinner. Allied Security provides security services out there at the campus. They have 3 guards on site 24/7. We are going to increase that number to 4. But like so many businesses in our region and in our state, they are having difficulty recruiting and training at the moment. So we are supporting them in every way that we can. We have also found an outside contractor to service the restrooms twice a day to make sure that they're functional and clean, and that we are providing the type of care and the type of facility that we can all be proud of. Volunteers of America is our operator out there. There are 12 to 14 staff always on site. Right now, there are 2 case managers. This week, high-speed internet is being installed at the facility, and we expect that more case managers will be available on site as soon as that install is completed. Presently, they're using hotspots. Over the last 3 weeks, you can see a steady trend upwards in usage, starting with our transition from the CAC and some of the other men's shelters there on the left side of the screen. The red circles indicate when we have had targeted cleanup efforts along the river, and we do see a light correlation in increased usage after those cleanup efforts. But as you can see, it is steady, it is sustainable, and we are, functioning largely as anticipated and as designed out there at the CARES campus. One of the things that I do want to highlight here is, if you recall the quadrant, we had 24 single women staying at the CARES campus as of last night. We are seeing a trend in increased usage by single women out there at the CARES campus, where previously that help was not available at the CAC in any sort of formal way. We are continuing to work with the county to transition those women into our place, and from our place into other transitional housing situations. So again, starting in the upper left-hand quadrant, I told you we were going to hire some additional security officers. RPD has been out there to do a security check and analysis of the facility. So fencing will be installed to provide central ingress and egress. A guard shack is in place for campus check-in, in addition to shelter check-in. And there is a distinction there that's important. We do want people to be able to come and go freely. We do want the community at large to be using the facilities that are available at the campus, regardless of whether or not they're taking advantage of the shelter. But making sure we know who is there and making sure that we're able to keep track of the folks who are using the facilities is important. And so we are adjusting the perimeter of the facility to make sure that that's possible. We're coordinating vaccinations at the facility to make sure that people who have not been vaccinated are able to take advantage of that opportunity. We want to make sure that everybody is healthy, particularly in a congregate setting. We are looking for additional pet vaccination options. As you saw, we presently have 5 dogs and 1 cat. I believe last week we had 2 cats, but we are making sure that in cases where an unvaccinated pet arrives, we're able to get that pet the veterinary care that they need to make sure it's a safe experience for everyone who's using the campus. We do have more folks who are working in shifts there inside the shelter. And a question that so many people have asked, when are we going to move the shade structure from the day use site along 4th Street back to the day use site in the central part of the campus? That was completed on Friday of last week. So we are accommodating single women and couples at the CARES campus. Couples with pets are welcome. Anyone with pets is welcome out there. No one is being turned away. And like I said before, at present, we have 54 beds available and 100 overflow cots in case of an emergency. And then finally, I think it's important for us to underscore that the showers, the day use areas, the meals that are being provided by Catholic Charities and the Reno Sparks Gospel Mission are available to all community members, not just those who are taking advantage of the CARES campus. The plight of the bathrooms that are installed is not a secret to anyone who has been following the iterations of the campus. And so what we have done is we've installed additional standing huts. We've made sure that many of them are handicap accessible, and hand washing stations there on the campus until such time as more industrial style toilets can be installed in those permanent fixture locations. And like so many things, it is a regional collaboration. It's an ongoing effort between the cities of Reno and Sparks and Washoe County. We are finalizing the ILA in terms of what the transition will look like for Washoe County to take over sheltering operations for our region. I believe you're going to hear about that here in just a few minutes. We have introduced a dashboard so that shelter capacity data is available in as close to real time as we can make it available. That is at reno.gov/homelessness. And like I said before, we continue to make adjustments as needed as we shake out the shelter and make sure that it is a safe and accommodating place for everyone who chooses to go there. The Phase 2 fundraising efforts, there's a standing meeting with independent community folks who are working through that. It will be a lift. You will see part of that in terms of what the capital contributions will look like from Reno and Sparks and Washoe County in the ILA. And then Phase 3 will be additional transitional housing, which, as you just heard from Mr. Klippenstein, is incredibly important to our region and something that we need to increase as we move forward. That will be spearheaded by the Reno Housing Authority. As you recall, that's that parcel where the present Wells Cargo building is. It's the westernmost parcel up top along 4th Street. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you for the opportunity to tell you what's going on.
Thank you very much. I have a couple of questions, and thank you very much for this presentation this morning. I know that numbers can change by the hour, and we're posting the daily numbers of occupancy and availability just for clarity's sake. Can you go back to two things? Because I think there has been some confusion. So the bathrooms, do we have an ETA on when the more industrial commodes are going to be installed that kept jamming?
I'm afraid this morning I do not have an ETA on the more industrial commodes. I will work with staff and see if we can get something out to you just as quickly as we can.
Okay. And then the usage of the cots, that is to fill a gap, as I understand, until additional mattresses arrive on June the 10th?
What I would say is that originally the cots were intended to fill a gap until additional mattresses arrived. The Washoe County Sheriff's Office graciously provided us with enough mattresses to fill the bed frames that are on site. And new mattresses for every bed are arriving here in the next week to 10 days.
Okay.
I would say that the functional non-emergency capacity is about that 604 number. You know, and so in cases of extreme cold, extreme heat, et cetera, we do have some slack that we could pick up and shelter some additional people if necessary, but functionally it's about that 604 number.
Okay. And then the last thing I have is the outreach and the notification. Can somebody give me, I don't know if there's anybody here that's been doing some of it, I see Grant's here, about when we started on some of the outreach efforts, when that effort began?
Well, I can give you sort of a high level of it, but Grant or Ms. Esparza can come up and they can give you more details. We started our outreach efforts along the river back in November, sort of contemporaneously with the approval of the CARES campus. We have, you know, really worked hard to make sure that we are treating people as fairly as possible, making sure that enough notice is given so that people are not panicked, so that people are not rushing around. Legally, 24 hours notice is required. We give people a week. And in some cases, you know, that week turns into a month, turns into a couple months. I've been out there myself. I've heard Grant, I've heard Antonio tell people themselves when they're told, no one told me, no, I told you myself. It has been an outreach effort, sort of modeled after and styled after mistakes we've made in the past, and we're committed to not repeating those same mistakes. And so we have worked diligently for many months to tell people, hey, as the CARES campus opens, as these new facilities come online, you can't be here. We want you to take advantage of these new spaces and these new facilities. So, please be ready to move when that opportunity presents itself. If you'd like more detailed information, I'd like to invite Mrs. Sparza up to talk about that.
And my last question, I guess, and some of the public commenters, and again, this is kind of an effort to get some factual information out, because I think there's been some incomplete or inaccurate information out there. Can we talk about property and how, what accommodations at the Nevada CARES campus with regards to property? And then additionally, let's say that there aren't women's beds at the Nevada CARES campus. What's the coordination with the county to get those beds? So property, and then how people are funneling through if they arrive at the Nevada CARES campus.
Right. Cynthia Sparza for the record, and I work very closely with the Clean and Safe team. So to tie back into the outreach component, in addition to what City Manager Thornley mentioned, I also want to reiterate that we have a partnership with the Karma Box Project. I know Grant is here. He's back there. So we work closely with them, and we also collaborate with the outreach committee for the Built for Zero team. So through those weekly meetings, we're able to share pertinent information, where we'll be cleaning up, where we could use assistance, and that's part of a weekly process that we have been doing for quite some months now. And then in addition to that, the property question, there are individual lockers at the shelter for IDs, more personal items. And when they check in, they also have the ability to use the storage facility that's on site. And that is where they could store items as well.
Thank you.
And then the last question, and Hetty may know a little bit more about this, but as women check into the facility, we do accommodate them, but of course there's some collaboration with transferring individuals to our place when the space is available. And I know that that's more of a coordination, between VOA staff, city staff, and working with, I believe it's Rise at our place.
Okay, so the clarity is that go to the Nevada CARES campus.
Correct.
That's the point of entry. And then based upon the situation and the bed availability, then it would go from there. I'm just trying to understand, because there is some confusion out there about space availability and people hearing our place is full, and what kind of accommodations are being made if our place is full.
Good morning, Amber Howell for the record, Human Services Director, Washoe County. There is a pretty robust process that happens every morning. There's a list of the number of vacancies that are open at our place. That is sent to VOA. We give them the times that we can transport, what if it's a top bunk, a bottom bunk, those types of things. So every single morning there's communication, and then we offer the transportation and then move them over. So this morning we had 6 vacancies, sent that list over, and then the time frame that we could go pick them up. And we're averaging about 2 or 3 open beds a day. So we are starting to pick up some momentum on adding additional women as those exit. So that process is going really well.
Great, thank you. That was good information. Thank you very much. Any other members have any questions? Member Dare.
Yes, thank you. And that's really awesome news. I love hearing that people are moving out of our place, which means they're finding life and those things that are great. Good job. Probably my biggest question, and it is a concern, is our caseworkers. To bring in that many, I mean, we can all see what's happening and imagine what's happening. And I know there's so many moving parts to this, so this is not a critique except a goal or a flag to raise up and say we cannot just bring all these people together and not have people receiving them and not expect some kind of crazy. I mean, it just seems, I could imagine this is probably quite a thing. And I know we're moving as fast as we can and things. I just want to raise that and say how important that is. And I know it requires finances, and I know we all have to come to the table and talk about that. But this won't work without caseworkers, and having two there is a concern. Are we having any of other caseworkers that work with other people come alongside during this time? Are we just waiting? It's actually just hearing that number, I did not expect to hear that number.
Now, the efforts have not stopped with respect to the caseworkers. No, certainly, inefficient, right, is how I would describe having two on site. The facility, in terms of the hotspots, many of them preferred not to use the hotspots. They preferred to use different internet connections. And so as the high-speed internet facilities are improved this week at the campus, those caseworkers will return to being on campus. If you've been there recently, you've seen sort of the northernmost portion of the building is set up with desks and chairs and is ready to go for those caseworkers then when they return. So while the efforts have not stopped, they have not been as efficient as they could be, and we're hoping to correct that this week.
What's the goal? So when we say they're coming back, one more is coming back, 5 are coming, I mean, we have, how many people, 500, 600 people? We have a lot of people. And so, and our goal is that we're not creating a new home for them, that we are helping them get to the next stage of that life, whatever that means for them. And so just, like I said, and I say this, I know, well, it's one of those things we can all come in whenever something big like this happens and say, well, you didn't do that. I'm not doing that. Please hear my heart. I just think this has to be a and right now. This is as important in my mind as everything else we're putting in it's an infrastructure issue, not just a personnel issue. And so to say the bathrooms are getting fixed, of course, but I think case managers are just as of course to me as that. And so so again, my question is, how many is that going to look when they can come back, or however that looks?
That's a fabulous question. I am mixing up right now the ratios of how many staff we need to have on site to how many caseworkers we need to have on site, and I don't want to inadvertently mislead you. So what I'll do is I'll call Mr. Cashel just the second I leave this meeting, and I'll make sure we get you an answer as to what the ideal ratio of caseworkers to people on campus is.
Thank you.
And we will strive to get to that number.
Thank you, I appreciate it, sir.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so we do think that the Wi-Fi will be up
Yes.
soon? Okay, great. All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Madam Clerk.
All right, Madam Chair, moving on to your next item today, item number 9. This is an update on the Nevada Cares campus from Kate Thomas, Assistant County Manager from Washoe County.
Good morning, members of the CHAB Board. Kate Thomas. I'm here to give you an update on the status of the Safe Camp. As you all recall, in November, there was much discussion around this sort of unknown opportunity to provide a different type of housing for our folks at the CARES campus, and it was unanimously decided that there would be a Safe Camp pilot program as a trial at the CARES campus so that we could focus on individuals that were not ready for congregate shelter, and so we could sort of follow in some best practices around the country. And so we're moving along in that process. I'm happy to report that we're on track for opening on the 17th, which is next Thursday. Again, I just want to stress this is a pilot program. This is not something we've done in this region. We brought out a consultant, John DeCarmine from Gainesville, Florida, who is very learned in this subject. He has tried and failed and then tried and succeeded at Safe Camp endeavors, and he has put forward a really thoughtful process around how ours will look. So we brought him out to do that a couple of Mondays ago and got some great feedback. So just a little bit of information for everybody out there. I know there's a lot of talk about, the Safe Camp is coming and it's going to sort of be this end-all be-all thing, but I will let you know that in its early iteration, it's 44 tents because it's in a location that's up top. I know we've all anticipated that Safe Camp will be down in the bowl, Governor's Bowl. However, the lack of infrastructure down there has us scrambling to get that work completed before winter while we house people up in sort of the upper area where there's access to bathrooms, we'll have fencing, things like that. So I just want to set the stage for everyone. As far as how that will go, we're going to be accepting 60 applications by the end of this week. Obviously, we can't throw open the gates and have people line up. We don't want folks packing up all of their belongings and showing up there on Thursday. There has to be a coordinated effort to get people people in so we can focus on housing. And by doing that, we'll see successes and the successful turnover of individuals placing from the Safe Camp into housing that I think we can all celebrate as we then continue to move more people into the facility. So we're going to be bringing in a handful of people a day. Just to reiterate, it's very low barrier. They will have to commit to housing. I mean, that's one of the success models that we know will be part of what this makes this a success for our community. So we have a handful of people who are working to put together that list of individuals that will be focusing on coming. There have been outreach efforts, as you are all aware. Those individuals that are working on this have been shared with all of the community advocates and the outreach staff, and this is also coordinated through Built for Zero, so you've heard that a lot. I think the coordination piece is really key as we look as a community to try to focus on things, whether it's a safe parking location or a safe camp. Coordinating with the resources and the people that are out there doing the outreach is going to be critical for our success. So I can give you the list of folks at the end of this that are working on that list. It's a nice mix of individuals throughout the community. But again, the partnerships is key. I want to touch a little bit on something that Councilmember Dare said about the caseworkers. And we've been coordinating as well with HPN, which is one of the managed care organizations in the region. They're ready to go when we open the Safe Camp to come in and place people into their programming. They have robust casework that follows you even as you leave the Safe Camp or the shelter. They're able to continue that casework with the individuals. And so they'll be also working on getting folks signed up for Medicaid. So it's those community partnerships that I think are going to be successful as well. We're in the stages of finalizing insurance. I think it was mentioned earlier how difficult that is for something of this nature that's not known in our community. So we've been working tediously on that. The fencing is up, the office building is there. We continue to work on the bathrooms, so that's being finalized before it opens. There's the existing bathrooms there for those of you that are familiar with the site. And this coming Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we'll have the intensive training on harm reduction, de-escalation, Narcan usage, all of the elements that are going to be critical for the operation of the Safe Camp by the staff. We'll have 24-hour security there, 2 full-time navigators. You're familiar with Karma Box Project that was brought on as our operator. We're going to have 1 staff and 1 security person at all times. There'll never be less than 2 people. We'll have some caseworker resources on site with a focus on housing. And then Catholic Charities, our community partner, is going to be providing 2 meals a day. And then we're also coordinating with the food bank to get, fruit and things like that for the morning. So we'll be providing, I don't know if that's been publicly announced, we're providing the tents so that, we've vetted kind of what that needs to look like. So people will be able to bring possessions that'll fit inside their tent, but the tents and the cots, there'll be a cot inside, which allows for folks to be up off the ground. There's storage allowed under the cot. So I think it's a really good structure as far as the Safe Camp goes. We're driving towards the more permanent location in the bowl with we're pushing as hard as we can to get that going before winter. That'll be more robust, more tent spaces available. And it really is a benefit for us to use this initial 44 tent structure as a learning opportunity so that we can refine the processes as we go, so that when we have a larger structure in the bowl, we really have our wits about us, we know what we're doing, and we're able to serve more people at that point. So that's my verbal update for you all. I'm sorry I don't have a fancy PowerPoint, but we've been very busy setting up a Safe Camp. So I'd be happy to entertain any questions that you have.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Member Dare.
Yeah, I just want to say yay. And I think it's really wise on taking and us walking through and doing a pilot. I'd say that. We do have a lot to learn. And I think that's one thing that I think sometimes our public out there see what we're trying to do and they think, I can't believe you didn't da-da-da. And I don't mind for me. And I think we're all saying it. Man, we have a lot we're learning. We're trying to do the best we can. We're trying with the finances and time and people's needs. And it doesn't always come together exactly how we want. So this is great and wise and good job. But I just think, I remember when we first started talking about this a little while ago, and I don't know, in my mind, I was like, yeah, it's never going to happen. I just had this. And so I love that we are just at least putting our foot in it, seeing how it's going to go, checking the water. And I just think it's wise for our community. And this is one of the things, too, I just say at large, is without question, we value the people that are in these situations. But we get a job up here that we get to value the whole community as well. people who want to bring their kids down there, people who want to have families down there and feel like they can't. So there's a balance here that not everyone has to walk through, and we try to, and keeping it safe with our water, all of those things, but it's all a balance that we have to try to just to walk through. So thank you. This is a great answer.
Thank you.
Member Bybee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Kate, for the update. Exciting, because it is, it's a critical need, and really having the safe camp in addition to the CARES campus, to our place, are all pieces in this puzzle of what we're trying to solve. And the safe camp is critically important. Really what you've got set up, and I agree, it's pilots, so you'll be able to really kind of figure out and refine it as needed as you move into the winter. I'm really glad that you're working with Mr. DeCarmine out of Florida, who I was online for that meeting when he was presented last month, and and again, an example of another community that is doing incredible things and tried something and it didn't work, and then refined and really has honed down to a system that does work. So I think those are the things we can learn from each other, and he was amazing. So I'm glad you're working with him. 2 quick questions on the meals. You said meals twice a day by Catholic Charities. And caseworkers, will those be specific to the safe camp, not intermixed with the communities of safe camp? Will be separate from the population and services and meals offered at the CARES campus, correct? Or am I not?
Yeah, that's correct. So
Okay.
for the most part, the Safe Camp is an autonomous feature at the campus.
Okay.
With the exception of showers. We don't have a shower facility there now. We know that we've got, adequate showers at the CARES campus. And as the facility builds out in phase 2, we'll have some public-facing showers as well. So with the number that we have, showers is the way that people will go over, and we'll coordinate when that happens to the CARES campus. But for the most part, yeah, that will be an autonomous function. Right now, it's a part-time caseworker. We'll be bringing in additional, but some of the navigators have some training. So again, that housing focus is really what we're driving for. When you come to the CARES campus, when you come to the Safe Camp, your next stop from there should be housing. You're not going from the Safe Camp to the CARES campus or vice versa. You really are going into those individual areas and then going out into the community in a housing situation.
Okay, perfect. And obviously, Reno Housing Authority is going to be a huge help with that, and especially when we get to phase 3 and they're able to have the transitional housing like right there, as well as other housing in the community will be great. Thank you. I appreciate the information.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. And thank you to all the county representatives who have just been working tirelessly to really get the Safe Camp up. What a critical piece and an innovative approach that, to complement, the other things that we've done as a region, whether it's tiny homes or the Village on Sage Street or all the different programs in that sort of same area. I really do think we've taken a kind of a holistic approach, and I'm looking forward to our next item, which is the transition over to the county as the lead. I'm pretty excited about that. So to summarize, so there will be 44 tents to start.
Correct.
Opening next Thursday. Outreach has already begun.
Correct.
You'll be providing the tents and the cots. There will be security, caseworkers, et cetera, on site, and it will be run by Karma Box.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, and I will say, I've got a shout out to everybody involved. This has been no small endeavor. Let's throw some tents in the Governor's Bowl and open up a safe camp. Sounds like a really easy community effort. And I will tell you, Dana Searcy from our office has been incredible. The collaboration and partnership between the city and the county, and of course Sparks, and the community advocates and the community service providers has really been tremendous. So this is a testament to how we've worked better now than we ever have before in this region, and we want to make this safe camp a safe and a program that is something we can be proud of, that we can be nationally looked at for how we did it right as well, which is why I think it's really important that we do it in a coordinated way. So thanks to all of you for believing in it, and hopefully we rise to the challenge.
Great. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk.
Madam Chair, with that, transitioning to your next item today, this is the update on the transition from the responsibilities of the shelter from the city of Reno to Washoe County. We do have City Manager Thornley is going to be presenting this item.
Good morning.
Morning,
It's going
again.
to be short. We continue to work through sort of what the language looks like. As you all know, the ILA, and with respect to the transition between the city of Reno and Washoe County for sheltering operations, of course, it involves the city of Sparks and as a funding partner in that effort because it is a regional issue and we're all coming together. It's going to cover, the timing, what it looks like to transfer COC control to Washoe County, and in what time frame. What the capital contributions look like, what the responsibilities are, et cetera. We are working out those bugs. You'll all see it probably first, and then we'll bring it to the respective boards, ideally in a joint meeting, so that we can get this wrapped up. Once the ILA is approved by all 3 jurisdictions, the VOA contract and the other contracts that fall under the umbrella will transfer over to the county. The VOA contract will probably have to be extended in advance of the ILA, but then we don't have a funding mechanism, so we might be going month to month with VOA for a month or 2 as we work out those final details. If there are no questions on that, I do have an answer on case managers.
Okay, thank you. I have other questions, but go ahead on the case manager.
All right, so on case managers, VOA presently employs 10 case managers. There are always 2 on site. With the internet up and running in a hard state there at the campus, all 10 will move over to the campus. So the remaining 8 will no longer be at Record Street. In terms of ratios, like you asked, a good ratio is 30-1, a great ratio is 20-1.
Okay, so there will be a total of 10 case managers this week over at the Nevada Cares campus.
That is what I am informed by Mr. Cashel.
Okay, fantastic. I have a couple of questions on the transition. So do we anticipate it would come back to this board for initial draft review in July?
Ideally, this board would see a presentation on what the document itself looks like in July. I don't know, at this juncture, just how much input the board will want to have, but we'll have a discussion offline to see how exactly you'd like to thread that needle before it goes to the jurisdictions themselves.
Okay. And we get a lot of outreach of individuals that have input, they have data, they have ideas, they have concerns. Is it best to be, I know that the county put up this great email address. Is it best that we just direct everybody, since that's where it's going, to that email?
I think one of the challenges that has sort of plagued our region is that we've had myriad approaches and not a single point. And so I do think that it makes sense that we start to use the email address that the county so graciously set up as they prepare to take over sheltering operations as a single point of contact or a single point of sort of suggestion, if you will.
Okay. Do we have that? You knew I was going to put you on the spot, and I'm asking you because
Hold on. Hey, Kate.
it's kind of long.
There you go. Regional Homeless Services at washoecounty.us.
Okay, Regional Homeless Services at washoecounty.us. That's not very short. Is there a number or anything anybody can call? I think you guys said. You can call 311. Okay, so you can either call 311 or you can email Regional Homeless Services at washoecounty.us.
You only have to do it the once, and then
I know, you got to crack your knuckles because they're so tired. Okay, fantastic. I think there has been some confusion about, for those that want to be a part of the Nevada Cares campus going forward, the excitement around it, the services, the problems, the what might happen of where to go to kind of pool those together and make sure that they are collected and as we move forward. So fantastic. Any other members have any questions or comments? Yes, member Biden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just as a point of clarification, so this is an action item, possible action item, and we are just recommending to staff to move forward with the interlocal agreement, but that interlocal agreement has to go to all 3 jurisdictions. So we'll see it at the Sparks City Council, Reno Council, Washoe County Commission for approval like we do any other interlocal agreements. And that's kind of the path forward.
That is the path forward. This body would see it ideally in July, just as sort of a precursor to that effort. I believe we are still working out whether or not we should take that item in a joint meeting versus sending them off to 3 separate meetings, just the same as we did with the CARES campus.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Thanks for all the updates.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
Madam Chair, you are stylized for agenda. If you would like to take one, I'll look to Manager Thornley if he's looking for official action on this item. Nope, it's the pleasure of the body if you'd like to proceed with action, otherwise we can continue.
I got a head nod no, but I think, you know what, I actually do think getting a formal vote of moving forward with the transition to the county, I think is a good idea.
Move to approve the transition of responsibilities of the regional shelter operations and the continuum of care from the city of Reno to Washoe County.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With that, transitioning to item 11, these are updates and announcements from board members, including future agenda requests.
Okay. Anybody have?
I just have
Member
one thing. I just want to say something to everyone at large. If you're a business, community member, church, a nonprofit, we just want to remind you that what we're trying to do is collaborate. We're trying to work together. It does mean that not everyone's always going to see exactly what the other sees, right? We know this because we've lived long enough to know this. But hopefully people feel that they're listening, we're watching, we're trying to make good decisions, but we need everyone to stay at the table and bring who you are, what you do. And I think there will be a place. Sometimes some of it's timing because we're in certain places right now that, going down and doing your particular thing right now may not be the best timing yet, but it's coming. And I just want to say that at large, that we will not get to the end of this alone with just the governments in the sense jurisdictions coming together. It will require everybody. And if this is very valuable and a very important conversation. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And for the next meeting, I know we'll probably get a Built for Zero update, I believe. And I do think at that time it's important that we have a Phase 2 update for the CARES campus. There has been tremendous progress made, both on the prioritization, what facilities and services need to be there and that we want to be there. And on the fundraising effort, there has been tremendous progress made on that front. And I do think we need to give an update to that because it's not just here's what we're looking to do or want to do. It is happening and there is significant funding behind it. And it's moving at lightning speed. So I think it's important that we get that update at that time. And then maybe another update from One Truckee River on any progress on the RV car parking camp. Is that what we're calling it? Parking camp? To see how that has moved forward. So that would be great. Okay.
I have one.
Yeah, remember.
I was talking a little bit over at Eddie House too in some of the updates. We haven't heard from them in a while. That might be nice to see if we can see, because they are definitely filling a very important need and even have expanded some to the college campus from what I understand. It might be really good to see some of that.
Great. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Madam Clerk.
All right, with that, Madam Chair, moving on to closing public comment. Item 12, general closing public comment is reserved for items not specific to our agenda that was received after 4 p.m. the business day proceeding. Should be noted for the record, we received online public comment from Lynette Schweigert and Jackie Riley concerned with the homeless sweeps. I do not have anyone signed in for public comment. With that, Madam Chair, I will return it back to the body for adjournment.
May I get a motion?
To adjourn.
I have a motion.
Second.
And a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None? We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.